Good evening and welcome all. My name is Ethan Moore. I'm the chairman of the Monongalia County Republican Executive Committee, and we'd like to welcome you to this Decision 2020 General Election Virtual Town Hall. Tonight we have with us candidates for West Virginia House of Delegates, District 51, and West Virginia Senate candidate from District 13, incumbent Senator Randy Smith from District 14, and incumbent Senator Mike Maroney from Senate District 2. I'd like to welcome our viewers that are watching via Facebook Live and watching via YouTube. We welcome you all and we appreciate you participating in the process tonight. Tonight's virtual town hall will be in the following format. We'll provide each candidate an opportunity to introduce themselves to our audience and to the electorate, give a short description of their campaign and their objectives, and then we will go into responses to prepared questions. Those questions were prepared and came to us from the members of our Monongalia County Republican Executive Committee. We will try to be brief and we'll try to answer those questions as quickly as possible. We do allow 2 minutes for each candidate to introduce themselves. Then there'll be 1 minute each to respond to questions as they're presented. And then we will do a 2 minute each for closing. And so again, welcome to our viewers that are watching via Facebook Live and YouTube Live. I haven't switched my screen so I can see what that count is, but as we grow, that number will increase. And so we believe, as members of the Monongalia County Republican Executive Committee, that this is a crucial election, that our republic stands in the balance, and that as Republicans and common sense considering people, that we need to get out and we need to vote. And so this is an opportunity for you to hear from your candidates that are running for House of Delegates and the West Virginia State Senate. And so we're just giving a moment here to let our audience build, and then we'll go right into our questions. I don't want anyone to start answering their questions or start giving their introduction until we think we have an audience that's going to stay with us, a sizable audience. And so again, we welcome our Facebook Live viewers and we welcome our YouTube viewers. And we are here tonight for a virtual town hall, part of a Decision 2020 program, a virtual town hall featuring candidates for the West Virginia House of Delegates from District 51 and from the West Virginia State Senate in Districts 2, 13, and 14. So without any further delay, we're going to start with our opening statements for all our candidates. We're going to start first with candidates who are running in senatorial races. First up will be Rebecca Polis from Marion County, who is running as a Republican for State Senate District 13. Rebecca, go ahead.
Thank you, Ethan, and thank you to the Republican Committee in Mon County. I appreciate what you're doing so very much to help us all get what our heart's desire is out in front of the people. I am running in District 13, and I'm a voice for values. And people say, what kind of values? The values that matter most to all of our lives, that help us to have a good life in every conceivable realm. I'm married to my husband, John, for 45 plus years. I have 4 children and 8 grandchildren. For education, I'm a graduate of Calhoun County High School. I have a Bachelor of Arts degree in theology. I have a master's in strategic leadership. I'm a certified life coach and a counselor. And as far as business goes, I've been good in administration. I've succeeded well there as I was an administrator at a 22-acre apartment complex. Was coordinator of trucking and site management for an apartment and hotel manufacturing company. And I've worked with my husband in pastoring both here in America and in overseas. I've also yearly done an annual women's conference to help women to be empowered to reach their potential. My speaking points are, I know that we need job generation. I am so concerned about bringing businesses into West Virginia, because I believe there's tremendous potential here. And so I'm thankful for the opportunity as I serve as a senator to work that and to bring in those jobs that are needed. But as well, I'm really concerned about education. I'm big on education reform in the sense that I would like to see more civility being taught in the schools. And you say, what do you mean by civility? The ability to solve conflict without berating, without beating, without bullying. There's been so much of that. And then I want to see civics brought in at another degree, because I believe that our people in West Virginia, as they're growing up, they need to understand the price paid for the freedom that we are experiencing. So they need to understand the Constitution, et cetera. So I also believe in addiction recovery programs, and I want to see women empowered to live at another level of prosperity. So these are the things that are closest on my heart.
Very good. And we thank you, Rebecca. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to our viewers. I see that we have 13 viewers that have joined us via Facebook, and I haven't checked our numbers on YouTube, but if those 13 that are watching tonight, we welcome you. We're glad that you're with us. We ask that you start a watch party with your own Facebook friends. Help us spread the word about this virtual town hall, part of our Decision 2020 program. Please help us tell your friends that this is going on so that they can hear what our candidates have to say. Next up will be incumbent Senator Randy Smith, who represents State Senate District 14. That's Monongalia, Preston. I know I'm going to miss a county senator, so I'll let you cover that, so I don't miss a county. I know the two that I'm familiar with, but Senator Smith, you have the floor.
Thank you, Ethan. First of all, I want to thank you, the committee, for putting this on tonight, and for all the other candidates who are here, has sacrificed their time and basically their life to run for public service. It's not an easy job. Like I said, I'm Randy Smith. I live in Thomas and Tucker County. I was a lifelong resident of Preston County until I had to move because of my job. I represent the 14th district, which is all of Hardy County, part of Mineral, Grant, all of Tucker, Preston, Barber, Taylor, and part of Mon County. So I have 8 counties I represent in my district. I've been a coal miner for 41 years. I've been married for 42 years, have 2 children and 6 grandchildren, which is the love of my life. Before becoming a state senator, this is my first term, the end of my first term. I was in the House of Delegates for 4 years, representing the 53rd district, which was part of Preston and Tucker County. I'm presently chairman of the Senate Energy Committee, and serve on the Agriculture, Natural Resources, Judiciary, Government Organization, and Workforce Committee. And it's been an honor and a privilege to serve the 14th district. As most of you probably know me, I care a lot about roads. That's my pet peeve, is the road conditions in the county. And many of you have heard of Randy's Dream. And so that, I guess that's my fame. Internet, broadband, and roads has been my two pet peeves since I've got elected 8 years ago. So again, I want to thank you, Ethan, for putting this on, you and the committee, and look forward to serving the 14th district again.
Yeah, very good. Thank you, Senator Smith. We too are proud to have you as part of our legislative representatives. Just welcome again to our Facebook Live viewers and our YouTube viewers. We're climbing in numbers up now to 24. Again, if each one will invite one, we'll expand our base and get this message out, heard to more and more. So welcome to our Facebook Live viewers and our YouTube viewers. You'll hear me say that several times, but it is important. They are the people that we are doing this for. Those viewers that's the audience that we're presenting this to. And so it's important that we recognize them, that we're not just heads on a camera and they're looking through the window, but they are engaged and important and part of this. So we appreciate them watching. We appreciate our viewers sharing this and helping people know. We're growing now to 30, more likes are coming. So there is momentum growing. And we'll let incumbent Senator Mike Maroney, who is a Republican that represents the 2nd Senatorial District. Senator Maroney, I won't try to name your 9 counties. I know there's Monongalia and Wetzel and Tyler and Pleasance and Marshall. I would embarrass myself if I keep going. So Senator Maroney, will let you have the floor and help yourself to explain what your district is and your vision for reelection. We might need you to unmute yourself. I'm sorry, Senator Maroney. He may have dropped out. I think he possibly went to unmute himself and hit the wrong button. He'll be back. We'll get him right back in. We don't want to miss him. If we can, I don't want to steal anyone's time, but if we'll go on and let Justin White, candidate for House Delegates District 51, do his opening and introduce him. Oh, nope. Looks like we've got technology is wonderful when it works. And here's Senator Maroney coming back. We're sorry, Senator Maroney. I think you popped the wrong button. You have the floor.
I did pop the wrong button. That was on me. I apologize. But I'm back. Can I go?
Sure, you have the floor. Help yourself.
Thank you, Ethan. And thanks to everyone that's here tonight, whether you're a candidate or listening on Facebook Live or the YouTube stream. Say hi to my good friend Randy and Joe, who I know both real well. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to represent District 2, Ethan. Before I cut myself off, you were attempting to name some of the counties. You did a pretty good job, but it's basically most of Marshall, 90+%. Then it goes down, going down the river. We have Wetzel and Tyler, and then moving east, we have Ritchie and Doddridge, and I have Gilmer, and I have Calhoun. I have the western half of Mon and the western half of Marion. So it's a geographically, it's a large area to cover. Like Randy, I chair a major committee in the Senate. I've done it for the last 2 years. It's a health committee. I also chair the interim health committee, which is a legislative oversight committee on health and human resources. But vice chair of the military committee, and I've sat on finance for all 4 years, and GovOrg, another 2 other major committees for 4 years. I'm happy to be a member in the Senate. I'm happy to go back. I'm excited to go back because you learn a lot in 4 years. And we were heading in the right direction as a Republican Senate. The COVID-19 pandemic got us off track a bit, just like it got everyone else off track, which makes it even more important to get our Republican principles of, business-friendly state, decreased regulation, decreased the tort reform, and the decrease in all the frivolous lawsuits. We have to reestablish a business-friendly community, especially in these times. I see the 4 issues. Actually, I got a 5th one now because of the pandemic, but the 4 issues are, for me, roads. No one can beat Randy with roads because Randy is our road guy, but we all care about roads. The road bond money that everyone voted for needs to be used, and the roads need to be better. We need the staffing in all these Department of Highways in order to do the job, and we need to do the maintenance. One of the problems with the roads and the reason they got in such a dilapidated condition was the maintenance wasn't done. And so once we get the roads where we need the roads, they need to be taken care of. Okay. In addition to roads, what else do we have? Well, we have broadband. I just put an ad out. I did some research on what we've done for broadband in the last 4 years. And I'll just tell you real quick. 2017, we passed a bill that invested $50 million in sharing loans for the sole purpose of expanding broadband access. In 2018, we did a Dig Once bill that allowed for broadband conduit installation along Department of Highways right-of-ways. We had a bill in 2019, which is the West Virginia Small Wireless Facilities Act, basically a 5G. It was to improve 5G in the state. In 2020, so every year we had a broadband bill that did something. 2020, it was redefine the powers of the PSC with regards to companies to install the middle mile broadband. There's going to be a big broadband announcement coming up. It was supposed to be this week. It's going to be next week. There's going to be a lot of money invested. Roads and broadband, okay? We need them both. If if you have the roads and have the broadband, people might not come, but if you don't have it, they're definitely not coming. So we need to have the infrastructure there, and then the businesses will follow. That's the way it works.
Senator, I think we all agree with those 2 points, and we're looking forward to hearing your other points as you progress through the evening.
Was that the time? My time? I thought we had 3 minutes.
Time's up there for a moment. Yeah, I'm sorry, sir. We're doing 2-minute openings, but we'll come back to you. We'll definitely give you an opportunity to go through your points, but I just want to welcome again our Facebook Live viewers and our YouTube viewers. I'm told by our gentleman manning the switchboard that we're up to 12 YouTube viewers, I think, and so that's a good connection there. We've got a little over 20 Facebook viewers, so welcome to our Facebook Live viewers. Please invite your friends, start a watch party, help us spread the word of what these excellent candidates are saying. We do have excellent candidates, incumbents and challengers for state Senate, and on behalf of the committee, we concur with those sentiments. It's vital that the Republican Party maintain control in the state Senate for the effectiveness of the state Senate. And so we'll move now into candidates who are running for, these are challenging candidates who are running for West Virginia House of Delegates District 51. We're going to start with Mr. Justin White. Justin, please introduce yourself. You have a couple minutes now to introduce yourself to the voters and talk about your platform. Next up after Mr. White will be Zach Lemaire.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ethan. And I really appreciate everybody being here tonight. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak to everyone tonight. So as a brief introduction, I'm a West Virginia native, and I think that's important, and I'm proud of that. My family settled in Monongalia County in the late 1700s. My heritage is here in Monongalia County. This county has been good to my family. It's been good to my business. And now that my children have gotten older, my children are, sorry, I had to pause there. Sorry, now that my children are older and experiencing, Ethan,
just continue on, Justin. We're seeing you fine. I don't see any delay in us, so maybe.
I apologize for that. I don't know what's going on my end here. I apologize. As I was saying, my heritage is here in Monongalia County. Now that my family is more mature and my children are older, my middle daughter is a sophomore here at West Virginia University. My son is a junior at West Liberty University, and my youngest is here at University High School. And I'm proud to say that all three of my children have gone through the public school systems here in Monongalia County. And I think that's a fact to be very proud of for what we do here in Monongalia County for our students. I'm also a small business owner here in Monongalia County, and I understand the importance of what it takes to run a small business. And I'm going to work hard to move West Virginia forward. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Justin. We understand you were having a few technical glitches, and that happens. That's the world that we live in. So we understand, and I think our viewers do as well. Before I go on to Mr. Lemaire, I do want to mention that we do have with us Commissioner Ed Hawkins, who is our one of our Republican county commissioners. He is the one that's up for re-election this year. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention him, which I had not already, but we do have Commissioner Hawkins with us, and he'll be speaking tonight as well. Commissioner, I'm sorry, I certainly didn't want to exclude you. I think I'm just so used to you being everywhere that I didn't even think that I wasn't calling you out. And so Commissioner Hawkins, we'll get to you in just a moment, but to our viewers, our 20-some Facebook Live viewers and our YouTube Live viewers, Commissioner Hawkins will be speaking tonight and answering some questions. And so I didn't want anyone to think that we don't have our candidate for county commission on. Next up is Zach Lemaire. Mr. Lemaire is a candidate for House Delegates District 51. And Zach is joining us from a remote location. He probably wins the award for being the furthest away. I'll let him speak to that. But Zach, you'll need to unmute yourself, and then you have the floor.
Yes, thank you, Ethan. Hello, everyone. I'm joining live here from Fort Lee, Virginia. I'm here at a training for the reserves. I'll be back home hopefully soon. But I'm running for the House of Delegates because I've looked at our government for the past 4 years that I've been politically active, and I've just seen that stuff isn't just getting done. Like Justin's kids, I went to the public school system here in Monongalia County, and I was a public high school student during both teacher work stoppages. That's something that affected me. I was a senior during the coronavirus outbreak, but we as Republicans have a chance to do something about this whole virus issue, and just about public schools in general, to increase the output into the workforce in Monongalia, not only Monongalia County, but as West Virginia as a whole. I'm running on a platform of lowering taxes. I believe in putting more money back into the pockets of West Virginians, which is why, if elected, one of the first things that I hope to propose is a flat tax reform bill to reform to get away with the progressive tax system and replace it with that 4.25% rate, which I have done research over 2 years, and I found that to be the optimal rate. I'm beyond excited to be able to get back to Morgantown, be able to get back out on the campaign trail, to be able to meet you all face to face once again. And I'm just beyond ecstatic about given this opportunity to get my foot out there with the big leagues, with Senator Smith, former Delegate Fritsch, former Delegate Statler, Commissioner Hawkins, Senator Maroney, and others. I'm just beyond ecstatic. Thank you all for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Zach, for your words there, and thank you also for your service to our country. Next up will be Joe Statler, also a candidate for West Virginia House of Delegates District 51. Joe, you'll unmute yourself and you have the floor.
Good evening. I would like to thank the executive committee for putting this together, because, as you know, we're having a tough time this year in running and trying to find forums where we can get out and meet the people as we have done in the past. It's tough. The reason I'm running is quite simple. I still believe I can give community service. I do have a common sense attitude, a working attitude that I can work with others and to take that forward. We've got to move this state forward. There was a couple nice announcements this week for the state when the $25 million gift that was given to WVU, and also today the Hyperloop. We need to keep those type of things going. We no ways near have maxed out what we can do in this state. And I believe with the COVID that has taken place, that will give us a chance to showcase West Virginia for what we truly are. And people are learning that they can work from home, and they don't have to live necessarily in these big crowded areas. And I believe that that will move some things forward for us. I have lots of things that I'd like to accomplish. And, I have the background in some areas that I think in organizations, the Morgantown, Monongalia County Metropolitan Planning Organization, I'm chair of that. I belong on the Clark Family Foundation, the Milan Park Foundation, the Operation Welcome Home, PACE, and I'm a member of the Olive United Methodist Church. I truly believe that our background should be in serving the communities and taking forward. Without going through everything, roads is always going to be important to us, but I also believe that if this thing has shown us anything, and especially with the learning, the remote learning that has to go on for the school children, we really have to improve our internet access across the state. We've got to make it available to everyone. Broadband is no ways near where it needs to be in this state. We need the high speed, and we're just going to have to make that a priority. That's got to happen. It's got to happen as much as any infrastructure we're going out there, because in order for this state to move forward, somebody's already mentioned it tonight, that if we don't get that done, then we're not going to have the people coming in to the state. So I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to run again. Not sure where we're at with time, but I'll end at that saying I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to the people tonight.
And thank you, Joe. We appreciate your past service, your volunteerism, your community service. We appreciate you joining us tonight. Next up will be former Delegate Cindy Fritsch, who is joining us. She is also a candidate running for West Virginia House of Delegates, District 51.
Am I on?
Already, and so you have the floor. You are.
Thank you for holding this event. Congratulations and good luck to all the candidates running for the House of Delegates, the Senate, and the County Commission. And thank you so much, Zach, for your service to our nation. That's so important. I am Cindy Fritsch, and I served 10 years in the House of Delegates. I had a 6-year interim, just like I have a 2-year interim right now. My mission statement has always been that I want to make West Virginia a place where our children can receive a good education and have the opportunities available to them to remain in the state of West Virginia, provide for their families, and retire in a healthy and safe community. And I've always tried to use that mission statement in my service in the legislature and in my votes, etc. And I've had the great honor of serving 8 years in leadership roles. More recently, I was chair of Banking and Insurance and vice chair of Legislative Rulemaking and Review Committee, where we have decreased regulations on West Virginia to help improve the business and the economy as much as we can, as much as we could, while still protecting the public. I was fortunate also to be able to be in the legislature when we were doing a great deal of reforms, and I pushed for these reforms. I pushed and was successful in medical malpractice reform, various tort reforms, insurance reforms, and tax reforms, kicking off eliminating the food tax for West Virginia, paying down state debts while not raising taxes, and workers' compensation reform and other reforms that help create a good business climate for West Virginia. It's kind of hard when you're told your economy is forced to close for these improvements and reforms to have a great impact, but they'll be there when we try to start growing again to make West Virginia competitive, because we were in a terrible mess back when I was first elected to the House of Delegates. And at that time, when I was first elected, the Democrats were in control of the legislature. So I've served as a Republican under Democrat leadership, and I've served as a Republican with Republican leadership. I was there when we flipped the House, so I feel like I was a part of helping to flip the House to take control after over 80 years of total Democrat control of West Virginia. So we are in a much better position to move the state forward. I also appreciate that the opioid epidemic is still a crisis for West Virginia. I've focused a great deal of attention on that in my recent service in the legislature, being the lead sponsor of House Bill 2620, the Drug Control Policy Act for prevention, treatment, and reduction of substance abuse. And I've sponsored and passed many other bills to deal with the opioid crisis. I've sponsored and passed over 100 bills in the legislature. I passed bills when the Democrats were in control, which was very difficult, but I've been very prolific. I've got a lot done for our state and our community. I'm a conservative. I support your rights. I fought for your property rights. I did not support I support fracking, but I did not support forced pooling. I voted for integrated leases, but I do not support forced pooling. I support people's property rights and their own decision for when to sell their natural gas. I have an A+ rating from the NRA. I have a 100% pro-life voting record. I have a 100% roll call voting record in the House of Delegates. I'm there to vote even when I'm sick. So I have a perfect attendance record, and I've really tried to help our state. And I'd like to go back. I think our delegation needs replaced. So I do hope the best for all the candidates here today. I've served on Finance Committee, Judiciary Committee, Health Committee, many other committees. I was the chair of Banking and Insurance and the vice chair of Rulemaking Review, where we decreased regulations. I don't know where I would be put again if I return to the legislature. I have served on all but one of the major committees. I've served on 5 of the major committees, and I'd be willing to serve in any capacity. and work with whoever I can. I've been a pragmatist trying to find solutions. I know I have strong ideals, but I have maintained a pragmatic center and helped to make a sustainable budget while the state budget was kind of collapsing after Obama's war on coal. I've seen a lot of tough situations in West Virginia. I've dealt with a lot of tough issues. I don't know all the answers to deal with COVID, but I hope to be there to help. Well, thank you for your time.
Very good. Thank you. We welcome you and thank you for joining us. Next up will be Commissioner Ed Hawkins. Ed, you're our candidate for our county commission. We welcome you. I certainly didn't mean to forget you, but you have the floor. You'll need to unmute yourself. I can't do it here. If you'll just pop the unmute button, you have the floor.
All right. Are we okay there?
You're good.
Okay, Ethan. I seem to have been invaded here by Joe Biden's fly. So if you see him light on me, you'd let me know, okay? My name is Ed Hawkins, and I am the incumbent candidate for Monongalia County Commission. I'd like to tell you a few things about myself and how these things came to be. For anybody who knows my mother, Ethel May Hawkins, you know she was spunky. She was always willing to take a chance. When she wasn't working at One Valley Bank or raising my brother and my sister, you know, she instilled in me the drive to volunteer, to work hard, and to play nice. So for the past 30 years, I have volunteered in various ways, including as a board member for Camp Muffley, a volunteer 4-H leader, just like my mom, beginning in 2009 with the Mon County Fair. In conjunction with my role as a county commissioner, I'm a board member for the Metropolitan Theater, the Monongalia County Planning Commission, the Extension Services Commission, and I am the county liaison to the volunteer firemen of Monongalia County. I'm also a graduate of Leadership Mon. Now, I consider my responsibilities as a county commissioner a full-time job, which I take very seriously. I'm available, I'm transparent, I'm responsive, and I hope to continue to be that for the next 6 years. Thank you.
Very good. We thank you, Ed. That concludes our portion now of our candidates opening. That was 2 minutes each. We were gracious and we weren't too hard on the 2 minutes. We are trying to keep to our time. We understand that our viewers who are watching, we now have 34 Facebook Live viewers, and our YouTube Live audience is growing as well. So we welcome you. I was just, while Commissioner Hawkins was speaking, I was listening intently and also sending out a Facebook watch party. So my friends on my friend list would connect and watch as well. And so that's helping. We're building our audience through doing that. I encourage all of our viewers to do that as well. That's how we influence our friends and neighbors in these trying times. Each one reach one, and we can change things. So welcome to our viewers on Facebook Live and on YouTube Live, both. Next up, Paula is going to be the moderator for our first question for, actually, I think we'll let Paula, would you mind moderating the questions for the state Senate candidates? It's a minute each and there's 3 questions. We'll let you moderate that. Ladies and gentlemen, Paula is our secretary for our county executive committee, been a long-time servant. She's a servant leader on our executive committee and has been part of the leadership team on our county executive committee for several years. Paula is going to moderate the questions for our state Senate candidates. Paula, go ahead and take the floor.
Okay, thank you, Ethan. We have 3 questions that we'll be asking in a round robin fashion to our state Senate candidates, Rebecca Polis, Randy Smith, and Mike Maroney. And I will call on you and we'll rotate each of you in different spots for each question. So the first question is directed to, or the first response would be directed to Rebecca Polis. And the question is, what can a member of the House of the West Virginia Senate, do to improve our roads and transportation infrastructure in Mon County and in West Virginia?
Thank you very much. Well, I know it's a challenge. 38,000 plus miles is not easy, but as I've traveled amongst people, I have definitely heard them say we need the secondary roads repaired. And the biggest thing that I've heard is that there seems to be a greater need for communication between the state and the local governments. When the people call, they say, you're on the list. but nobody really says, where am I on the list, or what place am I? When are you going to get to me? So I believe there needs to be a greater communication and a greater accountability than between the state and the local offices.
Thank you, Rebecca. I'm not as fast as you are. All right, same question for candidate Randy Smith. What can a member of the West Virginia Senate do to improve our roads and transportation infrastructure in Mon County and West Virginia?
Thank you, Paula. That's a good question. I would hope to think that in the last 4 years, especially that I've been in the Senate and the 8 years in the legislature, I have shown what what can be done. I've been very vocal, very active in with the roads. I've introduced several roads bill. Randy's dream was the big one, and I believe in the last 2 years. The last 2 sessions, we did a lot as a legislature to improve the roads in West Virginia, and especially in our district. They're a long ways from being where they need to be, but at least we finally got a start. And like Rebecca said, I think the biggest thing is to continue to improve the communications between the state level, the district level, and the county level, and provide information and information for where they can go and which roads are being fixed, how they're being fixed. We need more transparency in the system so we can see where each taxpayer dollar is going. And we need oversight. We need to continue to increase the oversight over our roads department to make sure that the work is being done and the taxpayers' money is being spent the way it's supposed to be spent. And I look forward. The biggest thing we can do is to elect some Republican delegates from Mon County, because when Joe and Cindy was there and I served with them, they was always on board with this, and so we got to get them back for help.
Thank you, Randy. Great answer. And next up is Mike Maroney. Same question. What can a member of the West Virginia Senate do to improve our roads and transportation infrastructure in Mon County and West Virginia? Mike, you'll have to unmute again.
Thank you, Paula. Can you hear me now? Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, in the Senate, what you can do is you can jump on Randy's back and let him carry you across the finish line, because that's what he does. And we have a small group in the Senate. We had 22 Republican senators my first 2 years. We had 20 my last 2 years. And everyone has their own little niche. And we work together as a team. We're a great team. My co-senator from District 2 is Charlie Clements. Him and Randy are the roads guys by far. They are passionate. We all care about it. We all understand the importance of it. They're passionate about it. They know every little detail about it. The road bond money. How do you fix the roads? Because we need to fix the roads. Well, you need to have money. Well, the road bond passed. Their money's there. You need to make sure the money's used appropriately and there's accountability. And as someone mentioned earlier, the communication between the local and the state. Okay, that's accountability. That's making sure the money's going where it's supposed to. Well, then you need people to do the work. That's been one of our biggest problems. When we were passing that pay raise bill and there was a work stoppage for the teachers, there's one of the biggest issues there. And no one talks about this. The teachers wanted us to pass that bill with 5% raise for the teachers and 2% raise for all other state employees. We held out for that extra 3% for the other state employees. That gave state road workers an extra up to 5%. Okay, they got it 2 years in a row. That gave, all the other aspects. We're talking about roads now, but the Child Protective Service, everybody else. The state road districts have increased their personnel significantly since those pay raises went through. So we gave them money, we gave them people, and now we got to make sure they do what they're supposed to do.
Thank you, Senator Maroney. All right, next question is for Rebecca again. And it is, if forced to decide between cutting non-essential government services or raising taxes on citizens and businesses, which would you choose?
I would definitely cut the non-essentials. I do not support raising taxes.
Thank you, Rebecca. You don't, are you okay with that, or you want to expand on that? You have a few more seconds left.
No, I think that's really cut and dried, and that's what needs to be said loud and clear, because we are often accused of wanting to raise taxes, and I am definitely not a raise taxes person. So I just want to say that real loud and clear. We do not want to raise taxes.
Thank you. Great, great answer. Very Republican answer.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Senator Maroney, you're Randy Smith, you're up next. And if forced to decide between cutting non-essential government services or raising taxes on citizens and businesses, which would you choose?
Easiest question all night. I'm a conservative Republican, so I'm definitely against raising taxes. We need, as a legislature, to go through our budget and cut the fat. I mean, we've did a lot of it since the Republicans has taken control, and we need to do a lot more of it. The biggest thing we need to start doing in the House and the Senate is start acting like Republicans and be, conservative Republicans, and look or make sure that the taxpayer money is protected. There's so many areas in the budget where money is just thrown as wasted. Programs that were started out of just because they had more money, they knew what to spend years ago, and they really don't do anything. And we definitely need, as a Republican Senate and House, to go over the budget and cut the fat.
Thank you, Senator Smith. And Senator Maroney, the last is for you. If forced to decide between cutting non-essential government services or raising taxes on citizens and businesses, which would you choose?
That's a no-brainer. I echo the previous comments. I'm not a raise tax guy either, especially when you're talking about comparing it with non-essential government expenditures. We need to cut more taxes, actually, is what we need to do. We tried to do that last year and we couldn't do it. We need to get rid of the personal property tax. We tried to do that last year. The Democrats beat us. The business inventory tax, the most penalizing tax we have for businesses that stunts economic growth in every county in our state. That tax needs to go. We tried to cut that last year, and keeping the counties whole for the money to the education dollars. They were reimbursed completely for all the money they're going to lose from that. Those are taxes that need to go. So I'm going to get rid of a tax type of person. Is there any taxes I would support? I looked at a tax on vaping products last year as a Senate Health Chair. I could support that tax potentially. They're not really taxed equivalent with cigarettes. It's hurting our people. It costs the state a ton of money because of we're paying for the healthcare on these people. So if you ask me to pick one tax, that's a tax I'll look at again. We talked about that last year. We chose not to do it. But that would be the only, if you say find one tax you might raise, that would maybe be one. But in general, I think we need to get rid of the ones I mentioned.
Thank you very much. All right, we'll start with Senator Smith for our third question and the last for our Senate candidates. Should broadband internet be an essential utility, and should the state government spend taxpayer dollars to provide high-speed broadband to every citizen?
It definitely should be. It's not considered a utility in the state of West Virginia at the present time, and that's something we need to change too, because like it was said earlier, broadband is the future. I mean, until we get our broadband problem solved, we're not going to progress educationally or economically, because that's just the way the world runs anymore. I don't believe that government should be in the internet business. I mean, I believe they should be there to support, but anything the government runs, I don't think I have to tell you, isn't run very well. And our broadband system wouldn't be any better if the government was running it. We need to have private sectors running the internet. We need them to be investing the money. We can, as a state, make it where loans, or fill in where the SBA for SBA loans and stuff like that. But we definitely don't need the government running our broadband. We need private entity to run the our broadband system, and the government be there to help, rather get rid of regulations or, set up loan programs or, helping get the infrastructure in place. But we definitely don't need them owning the or broadband, and we definitely do not need them running our broadband system.
Mhm. Thank you very much. I know there's been a lot of discussion about broadband and some actually fairly recently, and I think we hit your hot button topic, Senator Smith. Rebecca, you're up next. And the question again, should broadband internet be an essential utility, and should the state government spend taxpayer dollars to provide high-speed broadband to every citizen?
I think the pandemic has shown us the necessity of it. I think it's become a fundamental need in our society today. For the school systems, parents had such a difficult time trying to reach a place where they could get access to broadband so their children could access their lessons. And of course, even senior citizens' homes, they needed it to be able to communicate with their loved ones. Older people needed it to be able to place orders for the things that they needed. And of course, businesses need it. We've got to have broadband. I believe it's definitely an essential thing. But now, as far as the government, should the state pay for it? I think it should become, as Randy said, it should be private sector, but then the citizens should pay for it just like they pay for their electricity, their gas, their lights, et cetera, their heat. And I think that would provide for us. But we need broadband. There was about 50% of West Virginia that was not under broadband coverage the last time I checked. So all those areas need to be supplied. And so we need to work together for the good of the people, so that we can have it in business, in schools, and for the elderly, and for everyone.
Thank you, Rebecca. Next and last is Senator Mike Maroney. Same question, should broadband internet be an essential utility, and should the state government spend taxpayer dollars to provide high-speed broadband to every citizen? Mike, I think you'll have to hit unmute.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm a rookie with this Zoom stuff. I apologize. But absolutely, it's essential. And the state government, it's a cooperative approach between state and federal government. And yes, absolutely, the government should do anything they need to do to make sure it's up and running. Without a doubt, we need it. And you can't always wait for the private sector. Well, we've been waiting for the private sector. But when you have a rural county that has 20 homes, and they're not going to make enough money because they're not going to lay down the fiber because there's 20 homes, they're not going to get enough return on their dollar. That's been the problem for years. I listed 4 bills for whatever reason when I was opening on broadband. Those are the 4 that we've done in the last 4 years. 4 of the ones we've done. Randy, Charlie Clements, my co-senator, myself, and every Republican I know of, we care about broadband a lot. And we've been working on it for 4 years, but it's something you just can't, it just doesn't pop up overnight. And those bills that we've got into place in the last 4 years are a big deal. And finally, all this work is coming to a positive end product. And, there'll be a very, very big broadband announcement next week, probably. Okay. And that's a big deal. It's going to be a big deal for West Virginia. It's going to be the biggest broadband announcement in the history of a state. And that's that didn't happen because of stuff we did last month. That happened because of stuff we've done for the last 4 years. And I look forward to those citizens hearing this announcement next week.
Thank you, Senator Maroney. And I agree. I think some of the announcements we heard from WVU this week with Brad Smith and who's the Intuit guy, and with the Virgin Technologies folks. And I think these are all things that are just coming to fruition now, but they have been in the works for quite a long time, years in the making. And we're only now going to start those projects. So this is definitely playing the long ball. So we're going to move on to
I'll step back in if you don't mind.
Sure. Ethan.
We've had Commissioner Hawkins waiting patiently, and I think we'll bring him in and ask a couple questions of Commissioner Hawkins. Ed, if you want to unmute, we'll get your first question keyed up here for you. Commissioner, first question for you tonight is, given the discussions about police review board in the city of Morgantown, what is your position or response to those who would want to defund the police?
Well, given that a police review board would actually have to be adjusted by state code, I'm going to actually claim that this is a moot point, quite frankly. However, I'd like to tell you that during the course of the years, 5 years that I've been in county commission, we have raised the pay of the individual deputies by $7,500 each to make it a competitive place for them to be able to stay and work here. A lot of times this is a problem because we find that deputies or policemen will go from one place to another where there's more money. So we've been able to now finally staff the entire deputy force, and we've done that by 3 years in a row, actually cutting your property taxes.
Thank you, Ed. As always, we appreciate your succinct response. We appreciate your economy of words there. We're going to jump around. I just wanted to, I'm going to kind of fold in with the others. I don't want our viewers who are there to hear Commissioner Hawkins' responses to have to wait. We'll go now to our House of Delegates candidates and ask a question. This is first up for Mr. Justin White. And Justin, the question is, what about yourself would make an effective legislator?
Ethan, can you hear me all right?
You are good. You have the floor.
Okay, great. I have a unique skill set. I've got a broad and diverse work background. I have education from the WVU School of Medicine. I have a varied amount of healthcare experience in cardiac rehab and diabetes management. I have a degree or a formal education, I'd like to say, in healthcare administration. As I said earlier, I'm a small business owner, and I understand the troubles and the things that we struggle to deal with in today's economy and running a small business. And one reason that's so important as a small business owner, being part of the legislator and representing is small business is the backbone of West Virginia. It's the backbone of the national economy. And we have to make sure that we're increasing our tax base through getting West Virginians back to work. And one of the best ways that we can improve our tax base, that we can improve our economy, one of the immediate impacts that we can have is promoting small business, besides attracting new jobs and new business to Monongalia County and West Virginia. We have to help grow small business. So I have a unique skill set that comes from my formal education from the School of Medicine, from having formal education in healthcare administration, having varied jobs in healthcare itself. And also I've had the distinct honor to be adjunct faculty for the College of Business and Economics, where I taught small business management and entrepreneurship. And I believe this diverse skill set gives me the tools that I need to go to Charleston and represent the people of Monongalia County and work hard to move West Virginia forward. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Justin. Next up, answering the same question will be Mr. Zach Lemaire. Zach, we'll bring you back on camera, and I'll pose to you the question, what about yourself would make an effective legislator? Zach, you have the floor.
Our apologies, had some, difficulties here, but, I believe what I really have going for me right now to be an effective legislator is my ability to listen to the compromise, but also the viewpoint that I bring myself from. Because I'm as a member of the youngest voting generation, I tend to see things a lot different. I tend to see things, a lot differently than what some of my older colleagues might see them. I believe that by bringing a younger perspective on most of these issues, I will be able to be effective in my legislation and be able to create compromises that will be beneficial to all people, especially the West Virginians that I hope to keep here.
Thank you, Zach. We appreciate your response. Next, answering the same question will be Joe Statler. Joe, What about yourself would make you an effective legislator? Joe, I'm sorry, you'll have to hit your mute button. There
How
you
will that
go.
work now?
You're good to go.
I am not an I person. When I go down there, I don't operate as a single person. I operate to work with others to try to find solutions to the problems we have. And as Justin said, when you talk about business, I've been a farmer my whole life, worked in the mining industry, retired from that, but mainly farming is an industry that people sometimes don't regard as to how much you learn from that. I'm a great listener. I will listen and try and go out and seek answers to the problems that people ask me about and brings to me. I can work with others, as I said. I believe in sitting down. I don't care which side of the aisle. Once we get there, we need to work together to look for solutions for the problems we have. I believe Zach said one thing that was correct, that when you look at some of the ones going down, the younger ones, and then you have the older gray-haired people like myself. So you have a mix there that brings in something that we can see, that the perspective from all angles. So I do believe that my life experience counts. I've been there, done that on a lot of issues, and it's just quite simply that we have to be willing and able to work. And this is, for people that don't believe it, this is not just a 60-day session that we go. When you go down there, it's a year-long job. No matter where you're at, whether you're in church, whether you're at the supermarket, whether you're anywhere you're at, people's going to come up to you and ask you about the problems. And sometimes they're not even constituents in your areas, but I feel that you have to at least try to work on those problems and answer those questions, because we're all working for a better West Virginia.
Thank you very much, Joe. We appreciate your response. Next up with the same question, Cindy Fritsch. Cindy, if you'll unmute yourself, you have the floor.
Thank you. Well, as I said earlier, I served as a pragmatist, finding solutions to various crises that West Virginia was facing over the years. I passed over 100 bills that I've sponsored, and I served as a Republican during the Democrat control of the legislature for several years. So I had to navigate the Democrat controlled legislature, as I was the only Republican elected in not only our county, but surrounding counties, which was quite a challenge. So I know how to work with people that don't necessarily agree with me, but there were a lot of conservative Democrats back in the day. That seems to be changing, of course. And I've served on almost every legislative committee, and I got a lot of things done. I've been able to work on both sides of the aisle, been able to work with the Senate. And when I was defeated in the last election, I would have been one of the longest serving Republicans in the House of Delegates. So I think that was probably a bit of a loss for Monongalia County, because your time of service has a lot to do with the committee assignments and the chairmanships that you have in the legislature. And I will still be one of the longest serving Republicans in the House of Delegates if I return to the House of Delegates. But that means a lot in the legislature. It's a different world down there. And like I said, I've dealt with a lot of crises that the state was facing. And I had the tough task of working in a Democrat controlled legislature for several years, and I helped flip the House. So I think I'm in definitely a unique position among everyone here today, that I did serve as a Republican when the Democrats controlled the legislature. So I know I have a great deal of institutional knowledge. I know how the state budget works, having served on the Finance Committee. I'm trusted to be on the Judiciary Committee, trusted with my positions and conservative views. I'm trusted by leadership in that capacity as well. So I don't know what capacity I would serve in the legislature, but I'm sure it'd be something important to help our state. And I'd like to go back and try to put my institutional knowledge to work.
Very good. We thank you, Cindy, for your response. Next up, we'll go back to Commissioner Hawkins for a question. Commissioner Hawkins, our second question to you for tonight is as follows. COVID has caused us to look more closely at the working relationship between the county and state government. Do you see room for improvement? You have the floor.
There's always room for improvement. You got to remember, county commission is an arm of the state, and we must at all time act within state code. So it's imperative that county government be able to depend on effective communication with the state. Now, I can tell you that this county commission is on speed dial with J.B. McCluskey, our auditor. We have established an effective and competent relationship with Jenny Riston and Bird White and the DOH. And it was my privilege on Tuesday to speak directly to Governor Justice. And I asked him not to, I thanked him first of all, because he kept the promise to me that he made in January to come to Monongalia County, and also to make sure that he understood how imperative this county was to the success of the state overall.
Very good. Thank you, Commissioner Hawkins. Our second question for our House of Delegates candidates is that we use for our Senate candidates. We'll start with Zach Lemaire first. And Zach, the second question in our panel here is, should broadband internet be an essential utility? And should the state government spend taxpayer dollars to provide high-speed broadband to every citizen?
Thank you, Ethan. That poses a very interesting question. As a member of the youth, and as schools are going into online classes, some students are going back to school, but many students are still here online, with WVU mainly being an example, like in my district where I plan to go to college. Having access to broadband internet is very important. However, I don't see it as an essential utility for, yes, it is an essential service, but it's not an essential utility that the government should provide. I do believe that anything ran by the government is shoddy work at best. And, I believe that we've all seen that. If elected to the House, I will be advocating for legislation to disrupt the internet monopolies that exist across the state of West Virginia, and to open up the markets to allow these companies to compete for a price that is suitable to the consumers.
And very good. We thank you, Zach, for your response. Next will be Cindy Fritsch with the same question. Should broadband internet be an essential utility? And should the state government spend taxpayer dollars to provide high-speed broadband to every citizen?
Well, as we've discovered during the pandemic, a good internet is very important to citizens, very good, important for students, and important for business growth. In the legislature, we were slowly passing legislation, moving slowly forward to provide the groundwork for expanded broadband. We need to continue to ease regulations and perhaps look into loans. But as Randy said, I would feel more comfortable if the private sector was running the show. But this is very important to West Virginia. It could be, well, I think it's holding us back. There are many pockets in our state where they don't have adequate access, and that's not a good thing. We need to do what we can to improve that situation. But I have to be very, I be very wary of taxpayer dollars. We can help in some ways, but we can't pay for all of this. And I'm always looking out for the taxpayer. I have Friends of the Taxpayer Awards, and I'm always looking out for your tax dollars. I know it's an important issue, and I think the private sector can get it done if we make the right regulatory structure and provide loan situations and whatever else is necessary to help this move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy, for your answer. Next will be Joe Statler answering the same question. Should broadband internet be an essential utility, and should the state government spend taxpayer dollars to provide high-speed broadband to every citizen?
Well, that's a little bit of a loaded question, I will tell you, and I'm going to approach it from a different level than a lot of others that have approached it. I remember back, and I don't go all the way back to when landlines were coming in on telephones, but I do know that there's many small companies out there that's operating. But one of the criteria that they had, that if somebody wanted a landline service, it didn't matter how far they had to run those lines, they had to provide those lines to give that service to the person. I think there's by all means that we've learned throughout all this, and if we're going to move West Virginia forward, we're going to have to put some bucks into it, because I can guarantee you it is an essential service. Yes, I believe that it should be done by the private industry, but I also believe that if we rely upon private industry to do it all, that it will be so expensive that most people cannot afford it. So we're going to have the haves and the have-nots in there. So some way we have to work out a happy medium as to where we're helping. It's no more different than some of the roads we're looking at. I wouldn't want to treat the same as a highway system where we took on 36,000 miles of road and now we can't maintain them. But I certainly believe that the government's going to have a role in how broadband is expanded, where it goes to, who it goes to, because I do believe that we must provide, especially if we stay into the realm where we're using it at the education level the way we are, because we're mandated by the state to give a thorough and efficient education system. And that doesn't mean that we can pick and choose who gets that education. We have to provide that to everyone. And that probably could be challenged at this point in time where you're putting school buses out there. So I really believe this is going to be an issue that we're going to talk a lot about in the legislature. I hope I'm down there to be able to come up with some of the answers to it. But if not, I'll give my answer as a private citizen as to how I feel what needs to be done going forward.
Very good. We thank you, Joe, for your answer. Justin White, you're up next with that question. Should broadband internet be an essential utility? And should the state government spend taxpayer dollars to provide high-speed broadband to every citizen?
Yeah, I believe the answer to that is yes. I also agree with Mr. Statler that it's definitely going to be a mix of private and government, but I don't want to rely solely on the private sector. Broadband is an absolute imperative component to moving West Virginia forward. Those of us who have children in the public schools who have been working from home during the COVID pandemic, those of us who have employees who have been working from home, we all understand the importance of broadband access. But what we understand even more is the detriment of the lack of access. But I want to say something positive. We had exciting news today with the announcement of the Virgin Hyperlink coming to West Virginia. What could be greater for the state? But this needs to be our incentive in making broadband coverage our top priority for the state of West Virginia and Monongalia County. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin, for your answer. We appreciate that. Before we move on to another question, I did want to welcome again our Facebook Live and YouTube Live viewers. That audience is growing, continues to grow. It fluctuates. It's a living thing, it seems. And so many of you have started Facebook watch parties, and we appreciate that. We welcome you. Those viewers who are watching around Monongalia County, this video will be archived if you haven't seen all of it. If you came in late and you want to see a part that happened before, this will be archived on our website, on YouTube, and on Facebook, so you can go back and watch that later. Again, you are joining the Monongalia County Republican Executive Committee for a virtual town hall as part of our Decision 2020 program. And we have with us candidates for Senate District 2, Senate District 13, Senate District 14, Monongalia County Commission, and candidates for West Virginia House of Delegates. So welcome to our viewers at home or wherever you may be. And we certainly appreciate you joining us. This is the reason we're doing it, is for you. And so we're going to go now to the third and final question for Commissioner Hawkins. And then we'll come back to House of Delegates candidates. Commissioner, your question is, what are the three major projects that you support and the County Commission is advancing in the next 2 years? and why do you see them as positives?
Well, first of all, I hope it's in the next 6 years because these projects take a little bit of time. We've been working for almost 4 years now to get acceptance of a TIF. We want to see that the Harmony Grove interchange is built to access the Morgantown Industrial Park. The potential development that we have here for manufacturing jobs for this interchange is just absolutely boggling. It will, I believe, rival, if not dwarf, what is going on with Procter & Gamble in the Panhandle. Second, we've already talked about broadband. We think that we have already started to have discussions with Greene County and what they're doing so that we can broadband and expand with them. We've already decided that we're going to have a meeting, a roundtable, if you will, to have a discussion about this in our county. So we hope that we can begin to be the leaders in the discussion instead of just talking about it and getting something done. With this grant of the $25 million donated by Mr. Smith for economic recreational development, this is going to recruit professionals to our area, and they are going to demand that they have this type of service to be able to come here and work under the auspices. Last is to relocate and build a state-of-the-art 911 center. We've already developed a possible plan. We have been setting money aside for this, but it's been a long time since that building and that structure was built. So what we need to do is to bring this building up to the same state as what we did with the joint efforts that we did between Mon Health Systems and WVU Emergency Services. We managed to do a very good thing there. Here, Montague County deserves a state-of-the-art 911 center. So that would be the third major project that I would say over the course of the next 6 years that we would face.
Very good. Thank you, Commissioner Hawkins. Next up will be a question back to our House of Delegates candidates. We'll start with Joe Statler first. Delegate Statler, if forced to decide between cutting non-essential government services or raising taxes on citizens and businesses, which would you choose?
Would you repeat that question, please?
Certainly. If forced to decide between cutting non-essential government services or raising taxes on citizens and businesses, which would you choose?
Well, I can guarantee you that anytime you have a non-essential service that you're looking at, somebody's going to consider it as essential to them. But you have to make a decision. And I will tell you that I'll look at it, but that will be the area that I go to first, because I do believe there's still a lot of areas within the state tax code and structure that we can look at to cut. Because I know they've done a lot of sweeping of accounts. They've done a lot of cutting of accounts early on when we was looking at a $485 million budget deficit. But there's still a lot of money that's out there. And every day, every citizen can come up to you and tell you how there is some wasted government spending going on. So all we have to do is look around. There has to be a balance between what we need and what we is extra that we can afford to delay or put aside. I'll also tell you that it seems funny to me that we're in a state that the population keeps dropping on, but yet our government spending keeps expanding and going up. And I do know that the cost of business will add to some of that, but not nearly at the level that it has. So again, I will look hard at that. I also will look hard anytime we have to look at a tax increase. So that is where I would go. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate your answer. Before we go on to our next candidate and their response, we do have a guest who is joined with an unidentified number. If you'll unmute and identify yourself, we'd like to know who you are before we continue to keep you in our room.
This is Philip Wiley. I just made it back to the house. I was traveling and wasn't able to join you earlier.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Wiley. We'll give you an opportunity to speak just here shortly. And if you'll drop back on mute, we're going to go with our third question, and we'll bring you back in for an opportunity to address our audience. Okay. So we welcome Phil Wiley. Mr. Wiley is a candidate running in House of Delegates District 5. And for our Monongalia County viewers, those are, you'll have the opportunity to vote for Mr. Wiley as he would represent, if elected, residents in the far west precincts of Monongalia County. That's the Wadestown and Wanna area. So his House district covers Wetzel County and 2 precincts in Monongalia County. So Mr. Wiley has joined us and we welcome him. We'll give him an opportunity here shortly to address the audience. Unfortunately, we won't be able to go back through for his questions, but at least he'll have a chance to address our audience and here in our group. So next up with our third question for our House candidates is Zach Lemaire answering, if forced to decide between cutting non-essential government services or raising taxes on citizens and businesses, which would you choose? Zach, you have the floor.
Thank you, Ethan. Like my colleague Joe said, whenever we come to cutting these quote unquote essential, these non-essential services, many people might consider them essential. And so we got to look at that. There's a very thin balance of what we can keep. But at the end of the day, we have to make sure that we can balance out the budget without raising any taxes. So just cut to the chase. If it came between cutting these services and or raising taxes, I would have to vote in favor of cutting essential services. I'm a no new tax guy, unless this tax happens to be voted on by the people as something they want to see done in the state.
Very good. We thank you, Zach. Next up answering that question will be Cindy. Again, Cindy, if forced to decide between cutting non-essential government services or raising taxes on citizens and businesses, which would you choose?
Well, I'd like to point out that if you're supporting increasing spending initiatives, you're going to need increased funding and revenues, and you're probably going to have to increase taxes. I served on Finance Committee for 4 years. I was one of the people combing over that state budget while our revenues were collapsing in real time. I searched for those accounts to sweep. We've done a lot of the sweeping. It's going to get harder and harder. And the discretionary spending areas where you are able to cut are very limited. There's not a lot of wiggle room. It's very difficult to put together a budget, especially when you have revenue problems, and increasing spending makes that even more difficult. Certainly agencies should try to be more efficient. Some of that depends on the governor. When the governor flipped Republican, he did become much easier to work with, I have to say. So I I'm not going to support, I do not favor increasing taxes. That's a very difficult thing for me to do, to increase taxes. I have found cuts. I know how difficult it is to find cuts in the West Virginia state budget, Bill. It's in the West Virginia budget. I would be willing to look for more cuts, but it's not easy. It's not an easy thing to do. So I do not support raising taxes. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy, for your answer. Last to answer this question will be Mr. Justin White. Justin, if you'll unmute, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you. I think this is actually a very relevant question in these uncertain times. And to answer the question directly, I would favor eliminating non-essential government spending before I would ever favor raising taxes on the hardworking families of West Virginia. I don't think it's ever a good idea to raise taxes, but we do need to raise our tax base. And as I alluded to before, we need to be proactive about doing that. And leading economists agree that one of our immediate impacts that we can have on our West Virginia economy, on an immediate impact on our West Virginia tax base, is getting West Virginians back to work. When we look at workforce participation in the state of West Virginia, we have one of the highest rates of non-participation in the workforce, 46.7% to be exact. Now, we have to help these West Virginians get back into workforce participation. I had an amazing opportunity this year to work with Jobs for Life right here in Morgantown with Christian Ministries, Christian Help. And we understand that West Virginians have hurdles into getting back into the workforce, and we need to help our West Virginians, one of our greatest resources. We need to help them get back to work, help them overcome obstacles. Some obstacles are greater than others, obstacles like drug addiction, which is a rampant problem that we have in West Virginia. Some are smaller and more manageable. And we need to help these individuals get back into the workforce and job participation. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Justin. We appreciate your answer. If we can all just bear with us for a minute, I'll bring Mr. Wiley in. Phil, if you'll unmute yourself, I'll introduce you again. We'll let you introduce yourself to the audience and have a couple minutes to speak, because we're coming up now to our opportunity for all of our candidates to have closing. So we'll close with Phil Wiley first. And again, Phil Wiley is a Republican candidate running for House of Delegates District 5, which covers all of Wetzel County and 2 of the precincts of the western part of Monongalia County. That's obviously done because of population shrink in Wetzel County, and so we lose a couple precincts. But Phil Wiley is a candidate running for House District 5. He is from Wetzel County, but has a great affinity for Monongalia County as he travels often to our meetings and participates with us. So Phil, go ahead. I'll shut up and let you introduce yourself. We'll throw the clock off the wall, and give you as much time as you want with it. You can introduce yourself, talk a little bit about your campaign, and then we'll go. And Phil, we're not hearing you. I don't know if you're having a technical problem there, but we're not hearing Phil Wiley.
Hello?
Okay, we can hear you now. Go ahead. Well, you're back on mute, it looks.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now, Phil. Go ahead, please.
Okay. I'm a lifelong resident of Wetzel County. Graduated from Magnolia. Spent a lot of time in the military, Vietnam, Desert Storm, National Guard for a long time until I hit age 60. Active duty twice. I've got a bachelor's degree from Wheeling Jesuit. I was treasurer of a credit union for about 20 years. That was volunteer while I was working as a pipe fitter at PPG, a chemical plant over here at New Martinsville. I think I have educational background, and hopefully I've got enough common sense to be able to handle things right. The back part of Wetzel County and your western end of Mon County seems to be like no man's land that nobody wants to really participate with or anything else. They need some infrastructure over there with the road, with preventive maintenance on the roads, and also with cell phone coverage and internet, which they don't have. I saw here some of your questions, and what they need to do with the budget is each department should have to be audited at least every 2 years and check those audits and see where the money's going to see where you can eliminate some waste. But when I'm elected this time, I will support the western part of Mon County the same as I do New Martinsville or the eastern part of Wetzel County, which is kind of no man's land. If you got any questions for me, just let me know. WarrenWiley@hotmail.com is my email address. And also, I'm on Facebook. And my phone number, if anybody needs to get a hold of me, 304-218-9395. And that's good for me. If you got any questions, ask me.
Very good, Phil. Due to you're joining us late, our committee will share some of your campaign information on our Facebook page, so people can reach out directly to you if they have questions or want to ask you other questions about where you stand on the issues. So thank you for joining us. It's better late than never. Next up, we'll have Rebecca Polis. We're going to start with our closings, and so we'll start with Rebecca Polis, and then we'll go to Senator Smith. Appreciate everyone joining us and sticking with us through the night here. Rebecca, if you'll go ahead and unmute yourself, you've got the floor for your closing. Nope, we're still on the mute. Sometimes that button eludes me too, so. Nope. Still muted. Senator Smith, can you step in and we'll have you go while Rebecca's working on her technology there?
Sure, Nathan. This is your closing comments, correct?
Sure. Yep. This is your closing.
I'm asking for the support of the voters in 14th District. I'm a strong conservative voice. I have been since I've been elected and will continue to be. I'm endorsed by just some of the endorsements, West Virginia for Life, which I strongly believe that I'm strongly against abortion. I have 4 adopted grandchildren, which makes it that much stronger. Endorsed by the NRA, the West Virginia Citizens Defense League, the West Virginia Farm Bureau, West Virginia Home Builders Association, West Virginia Chambers, West Virginia Business and Industry Council, West Virginia Oil Gas, and West Virginia Nurses Association, West Virginia Coal Association, West Virginia Metallurgical Coal Association, and many others. But the reason I'm running for this is the reason I got into it to start with. I have 2 children and 6 grandchildren that I want to see to be able to stay in the state of West Virginia. My biggest fear is that my children and grandchildren have to move away from West Virginia. And that's why I get up and fight every day. And being a conservative, believe me, I don't think I have to tell anyone that it is a fight every day. Going to the polls this year, the people just need to ask themselves, what kind of America do I want to live in? And what kind of state do I want to live in? Do I want a state that's like Oregon, California, New York, or do I want a conservative state where I have my freedoms and to raise my family and with good conservative values? So this isn't an election against good or bad, or against Republican and Democrats. Is a fight against good, against evil. And I'd appreciate your support. And I'm always available, very accessible. So, and all you got to do is look for me on Facebook or the legislative webpage. All my information's on there. And I encourage you, if you have any questions, to reach out to me. And look forward to serving the 14th District again. And good luck to all the candidates. And I hope you all make it down there to help straighten this up, especially Mon County. Thank you.
And we thank you, Senator Smith. Thank you for your service. We're going to go back and try to get back to Dr. Rebecca Polis. I think maybe she was on the wrong button, but we're still, let's see if we can get her there.
Okay, can you hear me?
We can hear you now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity to share. I want to serve this District 13 in the state of West Virginia. I'm a people person, I'm approachable, and I'm a team worker. So I would love the opportunity to work with all of you that we've been sharing with tonight. I want to thank you for this opportunity again. But before I end, I want to publicly state that the current negative ad being run by my opponent is falsely stating I was handpicked to run, that I don't support teachers, that I would send jobs outside of West Virginia, that I would raise taxes. Well, I want to clarify that none of those assertions are true. And I've addressed those specifically on my Facebook page, which you can go to Rebecca Polis for West Virginia Senate 2020, or you can go to my website, polisforwvsenate.com. I'm asking for the vote of those that are listening because I have an honest heart, I'm sincere, I have integrity, and I really desire to be down in Charleston in January working to make West Virginia great again.
Very good. We thank you, Rebecca. Thank you for joining us. And thank you for your kind words. Next up will be Senator Mike Maroney. With his closing. Go ahead, Senator. Well, don't forget to tap your unmute button, sir.
Okay, you got me now.
Yep,
So,
you're good.
As I said earlier, Ethan, is when we talked about it a little bit, not very long. The time that the segments were short, but the roads and the broadband, okay, those are important. Jobs are important. They're even more vitally important now with this COVID pandemic. We need to get back to the path we were on. West Virginia had the highest GDP growth in the nation for at least 2 quarters in the last few years. We need to get back right on that track. Okay. And lastly, one of the things I already have it on paper. We need a pandemic bill. We need a pandemic bill that addresses, and it's going to be a priority for sure in February when we start. It needs to talk about how they surveil the surveillance, the epidemiological data for this pandemic. We have 4,000 active cases roughly in the state. If the vaccines are available in the spring of 21, people won't have them until the spring of 22. That's when the last person who wants a vaccine will be vaccinated. We can't continually shut down West Virginia at the whim of one person, or 2 people or 3 people. The legislator needs to grab some of that power from the governor. If the legislator has the power, then the people have the power. And closing it down needs to be a compromise between minimizing spread, but also destroying small businesses, hurting our kids for not being in school. And the decisions need to be more scientific based. The vaccinations, medications, stockpiling of equipment. Who has the power? What's DHHR's role? What's the Bureau of Public Health's role? What's DMAP's role? What's the National Guard's role? What's the governor's role? What's the legislator's role? All those powers need to be defined. The powers that aren't given to the governor by the state constitution need to be grabbed by the legislature so that people have them and that people have say. This pandemic's going to last for a while, and it's terrible that it is lasting for a while. But we need to continue to exist. Okay, that's number one. Number 2 is, even when this pandemic's over, there's going to be another one. It's changed the world forever, and we got to be able to live as a state. People need to be able to make their own personal decisions. In the same time, respect others and be led by scientific data, not by political viewpoints. I think that will be the most important piece of legislation next year. I appreciate the opportunity to see everybody tonight. I wish all the candidates in the House races good luck. We need Republican representation from Monongalia County and Charleston.
Very good. We thank you, Senator, for joining us and appreciate your words there and your answers. We'll go next to Commissioner Ed Hawkins for his close. I don't want to make him wait till the end of the night. Commissioner Hawkins, you have the floor. If you'll unmute yourself, and you can go at your will.
Thank you. And thank you, Ethan, and the committee for putting this all together for us this evening. We certainly do appreciate it. The challenge that we have before us right now is unprecedented. Now is not the time to be starting over with new and inexperienced leadership in our county. We have an excellent team in place with my fellow commissioners, Tom Bloom and Sean Sikora. There are no decisions that are made that are personally beneficial or because somebody has an agenda. We're a unified group who rely on one another's strengths to get the job done. I've worked hard to gain the trust of the citizens and that of my fellow commissioners, as well as those who have endorsed me, including the North Central West Virginia Home Builders Association, the Volunteer Firemen of Monongalia County, and the Monongalia County Farm Bureau. I have the same concerns you do. We need better roads, but in the new normal, we need better internet connectivity, and we need to have ways to become a community again. Important to the future of the county is the ability for our elected leaders to play nice and build consensus. I have a personal track record of being able to do that, most evident recently with the collaboration between the university, the city, the governor's office, the health department, and our county school officials as we navigate COVID-19. I wish to continue to work hard for the citizens of my county, and I thank you for the opportunity to, if you put it, be with you this evening.
Thank you, Commissioner Hawkins. We were glad to have you with us, be it just virtually. Next up will be Justin White with his closing. Justin, again, is candidate for House of Delegates District 51. Justin, you have the floor.
Thank you, Ethan. I'd like to thank everybody for, I've been having technical difficulties. I'd like to thank everybody for being here this evening and taking time out of your schedule to let all the have an opportunity for all the candidates to discuss their platforms with you. I'd encourage everybody to go to whiteforhouse.com so you can actually read about our platform. We had a lot of good questions tonight, but we had a brief opportunity to answer those questions. So I encourage everybody to go to our website and check out a little bit more about our platform. But to recap, I want to just say that I have a strong educational background. I have a teaching background in higher education, and then I'm a small business owner. And I understand the difficulties of running a business. I understand the business climate of West Virginia. And I also understand the problems and the struggles that our employees have staying connected with their job and with their business. And I think that's very important as we move West Virginia forward and as we get people back into the workforce. We have a tough road ahead of us, but I believe with my diverse skill set that when I go to Charleston, that I will work hard to seek solutions for all people of Monongalia County. Thank you, good night, and God bless.
Very good. We thank you, Justin. Next up is Cindy Fritsch for her closing. Cindy, you'll just tap your unmute. You have the floor.
Well, thank you. I hope that we all win so that we can work together to help solve West Virginia's problems. And Dr. Maroney, I'd sure like to help work on that pandemic bill with you. I've always been guided by my desire to make West Virginia a place where our children can receive a good education and have the opportunities available to them to remain in the state, provide for their families, and retire in a healthy, safe community. I've governed as a pragmatist, finding solutions. But I am a conservative. I support property rights. I voted against forced pooling. I want people to be able to control their own property and decide when to sell their natural gas, at what price, etc. I have won Friend of the Taxpayer Awards. I'm NRA A+ rated. I have a 100% pro-life voting record. I support religious liberty, and I have a 100% roll call voting record, which is basically an attendance record. I've never taken a dive on a vote. And I support security for West Virginia jobs, health, education, and safety. Serving on Finance Committee, I created a sustainable budget and I know where we can and cannot make funding cuts. I will continue with economic reforms to help improve our economy and job creation. I know we've done a lot of that in the past, and it hurts my heart to see what's happening with this pandemic. But we've created a good playing field for job creation, and we need to continue to work on that. I'd like to provide educational options for parents and continue my focus on solutions for the opioid crisis, to make sure that people can get treatment. That's I think that's the most important thing. It's difficult for people to understand that they need help. We need to get more ways to urge that they get help. And we have provided a lot of beds in the state for opioid treatment and rehab. We need more. And I will continue addressing the regional jail situation and support law enforcement. And I ask for your vote because you are all essential. Every one of you is essential. So thank you very much. And I look forward to working with the rest of you.
Very good. We thank you, Cindy, for your time and your answers tonight. Next up will be Zach Lemaire with his closing. Zach, and then Joe Statler will finish for us, and then we'll just have a few closing words, and we'll let everyone log off. So, Zach, go ahead, unmute yourself, and you have the floor.
All right, I just want to, thank Ethan and Paula for hosting this event. During the times of COVID-19 and some of the scare of the virus, not many of us are able to get out and about. With me and my aforementioned situation, here at Fort Lee, I'm not able to physically get out in the community whatsoever, which is, partially due to COVID. But I'm running to bring common sense, conservative, and liberty-oriented values, representing the youth of Monongalia County to the House of Delegates. If elected to the House, I hope to work with every member of the House and Senate to lower taxes and to increase to fix infrastructure, to increase the broadband access so that we can provide jobs to keep young people in West Virginia and to entice new people in West Virginia. Once again, it's an honor to be able to be running alongside these great candidates, many of them being former members of the legislature. I hope to be back in town soon and to be able to get out and meet you all once again. Thank you.
Thank you, Zach. And once again, for our viewers that are watching, Zach is a member of the Army. Are you a reservist, Zach, or is it National Guard, or?
I'm a reservist, but it's the same deal. I'm back home most of the time. But while I don't work for the state necessarily, I do happen to contribute to a lot of the activities that are in the states. In Morgantown, especially the reserve units and the guard units work side by side, which is something that I hope to continue doing when serving people in Monongalia County and throughout the state and the nation.
So thank you, Zach, for your service to our country. Zach is away right now at Fort Lee and caught there, not able to come back to the district right now. But last but not least, Joe Statler is going to give his closing, and then we'll wrap up for the evening. Joe, go ahead.
Well, again, I want to thank the committee, and I especially want to thank Zach for his service and all the veterans of the past and who is presently serving in the military. We can't say enough to give them credit for the liberties that we have, even on here tonight, that we can come in and the government's not watching what we're doing when we're having these type of things. And we're enjoy that because of people that's done the service for this country. I want to come to you tonight. I'm asking for your vote. We all talk about endorsements and we all get endorsements. It's out there and we're honored. Every one of us are honored to have those endorsements. That means that somebody believes what we're doing and that we can deliver for what they're asking. But the endorsement that I'm asking for and for everyone tonight is asking for is your vote. If I could do anything, implore you to get out and vote. You have to go out to vote to make your voices heard. Without voting, then you're just remain silent and you're okay with everything that's going on. So I'll make that passionate plea to you that we all need you to go out and vote. I started out tonight talking about the things that I will do, what I've done. I'm proud that I've been married for 42 years to my wife, Louie. I have 3 daughters and 4 grandchildren. And it's as much about them, but what is more about for me is community service. I was raised in a family that said, take what you need, but also remember to give back. I've been very fortunate. The good Lord has blessed me with the ability. I was able to retire early. I worked in the coal industry, was able to retire at an early age and have been giving to the community. Like I and Cindy that served before, I felt the pain that she also has felt when you lose an election because you feel that you can do more down there. And I was blessed also this year when the county commissioners, Ed Hawkins, Tom Bloom, and Sean Sikora asked me to go down and to represent the county and talk to them and try to pass forward with the other members of the legislation the things that are important to the people of Monongalia County. I was honored to be able to do that. I would be more honored to be able to go down and represent the county the same way as I did before with a vote. 100 members down there. And, I will say that we need good representation down in Charleston. We need people that speaks the voice of all the county, and it's not carrying pledges out there, maybe just single issues and that type of thing. The thing that I will pledge to the people, if they choose to vote for me, is I will pledge to you that the one thing that I will do, I will work my hardest. I will try my best to represent your needs and the needs of West Virginia. Will I always vote the way that you feel I should vote? Probably not. For that to happen, I don't know. I probably have to be able to walk on water. And I certainly can't do that. But I will make it affirm to you that I'm a year-long person, that I will always be out there to listen to you. Unfortunately, we've not been able to meet with the groups that we've been meeting with before. And the last thing that I will leave you with, I am a person and I have a passion, not only for law enforcement. I can't believe that anybody would think about defunding the police department, the people that protects us, but also our volunteer firemen, our EMS. you know, I was a first chair of the fire and EMS in Charleston. And that is one of the things that I'm most proud of that I was able to do down there, is to take what their concerns are and be able to deliver some legislation that would help them on training. Just get to know those organizations. And believe me, if you think we can do without our firemen and our EMS, I think you'll be badly mistaken. And that's a service that if we had to pay for out of the state tax dollars, you talk about something that would bankrupt the system. That would bankrupt the system. Thank you very much, and good evening, and God bless.
Joe, thank you for your words. Thank you for your service. To our incumbent candidates, thank you for your service. And to our past delegates, Joe and Cindy, thank you for your service previously. I'm going to echo the words that Joe said. It's vital that we vote in this upcoming election. And we have an excellent slate of candidates for House of Delegates out of District 51. From the top to the bottom, if there is a top, if there is a bottom of that slate, we have an excellent slate of candidates that would truly represent Monongalia County in a more in a more fair way. Our Senate candidates are excellent. Rebecca Polis, Dr. Maroney, and Senator Smith, we thank you for coming. This obviously is our opportunity to endorse your candidacy. Our county committee does do that. We're proud to have you on, have you to represent citizens in our county. Paula, have I forgotten anything? I'll let you have a few words, and then we will let our audience and our candidates and incumbents go. Paula, it looks like you're still on mute.
I did the same thing as everyone else. I think you covered everything. And I wanted to extend my appreciation to all of our candidates for getting back to me quickly and being forthcoming and able to work with us to get everybody up and running. And I'm very pleased at the turnout tonight. So I just want to thank everyone.
Thank you, Paula, and thank you to our candidates. Again, thank you to our viewers. Our numbers fluctuated, people come and go. It's not like it's not like an actual town hall where you get people for a captive audience for 2 hours. We might have got 2 minutes from 500 people, but that's a lot broader base than we would have gotten without doing anything. And so on behalf of the Monongalia County Republican Executive Committee, we thank you for participating, to our candidates, our incumbents, and to our viewers. And we look forward to victory for all of you in November. And the Monongalia County GOP Victory Center this year is set up at 1195 Pineview Drive. They have signs available for all of our candidates. And if you're a candidate and you haven't been able to get your signs there yet, or you brought some and they've run out, please make sure and restock. That way our citizens of Monongalia County know one central spot where they can get signs for your campaign. We have Trump Pence signs. We have signs for statewide candidates there. You can always visit our website. That's www.moncountygop.org. And our Facebook is Monongalia County GOP. Connect with us that way. You're watching via Facebook Live or YouTube Live. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. And you're getting here just at the tail end. So again, thanks to all of our candidates. We'll give you a wave. And we don't all have to come back on the mic, but just everyone wave and say good night. And without further ado, we'll end the call. Thank you.